This video we're going to discuss when it comes to gun auctions. Going to some local, small, rural, or obscure auctions. If you go like to Auction Zip or something, and basically these are the companies that do estate auctions or things like that. And there was one here that no matter what, they closed down an old gas station / garage. Had a lot of automotive stuff in it and everything, but this guy, whenever he has an auction, he gathers up some guns. There were a few of them there, and his thing was at 11 o'clock he'd start auctioning the guns off, and he had a FFL dealer there so he can do the paperwork, everything's legal. I went to several of his auctions. Actually, he had one at his building, the warehouse, and you know they got everything in there, furniture, all this other stuff they were auctioning. But I guess he got a couple of estates because there was a huge assortment. There were trapdoors, there was all these, there were Japanese rifles, Spanish rifles, and all this other stuff. So there was a good selection of Milsurp there, and it didn't go high. Of course, we're talking 6-7 years ago. Okay, and what I'm noticing is a trend when auctions do come up. So there was him. There was another guy that every 6 months or so he would do basically. There was somebody who would put a lot of guns into the auction and drop them off, and then different people would consign stuff. And he did coins, stamps. He even had musical instruments one time, car advertisement signs and that, which is a big deal. But he had some fairly good selection of things, and things weren't that rugged there. They didn't get out of hand. And then there was the one individual I knew that did estate auctions, or estate, what he specialized in, estate sales. That's where when somebody's deceased, he'll come to the house, price everything, and he runs the sale while, you know, with his team while the family's out, and he sells off, you know, all the internal stuff of the house, the furniture, dishes, whatever. He would also have auctions, and while most of it was antiques and furniture and signs and games, every now and then he'd get some guns. And he did handle the estate of one person that had a lot of guns, and he said it's going to be like 3 auctions. There were so many firearms because it wasn't a big place, and he really didn't have that many lots all the time, you know. So when you go to something like this in the past, and that's where one of the last ones I went to, there was no sales tax. It was just basic, simple auction. However the laws were. Well, they changed that, and he said you have to do sales tax. So years ago, when you'd go there, and again, it depends who's in there. The first thing you're going to be up against is there are these scavengers that come in there, okay? And these are people that go to flea markets or have a little curiosity shop or something. And when it comes to guns, there's one guy I know that any type of gun, broken, weird, old, screwed up, whatever, if it's less than $100, he'll bid on it till it gets to $100 or $120. And I noticed this with a lot of sporterized military guns. There was an old Mauser in there I kind of liked. And what these people will do is they will bid it up to about $100 or a little over, okay? Because they have a set thing in their head that any sporterized gun they can sell for $200 at the flea market. And I've seen guys do it. So when they go to an auction, if they could buy a sporterized gun, even, you know, for $80, they're going to take it to the flea market next week, try to sell it for $200. So that's what you got to know you're up against. And where you make out, and several people in the live broadcast told me they went to this style of auction, where you make out are the people in there buying the guns. Very rarely do you have collectors, especially if there's nothing spectacular or very valuable. But we'll go back to that because I've seen where this has changed also. So they don't know. They see something, and the biggest mistake people make is if they look at a rifle and it looks like a Mosin Nagant, okay, 9130. But actually, it could be a Finnish M31 or 32 or something like that. They don't realize that these guns are worth about $700. Okay, they're thinking it's a Mosin Nagant, okay, a regular Russian one, and it's not. I've seen some Finnish ones in there, and they'll bid, thinking the gun can probably easily sell for $300. They will bid like $150, $160. And this is where I didn't even really realize what it was. The guy said, oh, it's a Mosin Nagant, but Finnish capture. And I looked at it and everything, and I said, oh, there's some strange markings on the barrel and that. And I glanced at it because the reason I went to this auction, he only had like 5 guns in this auction. I went there for something else. It was a pistol. And it went way too high, so I passed. And so I'm sitting there, so I drove up here. Let me see what that rifle goes for. What it was is a Finnish Civil Guard model 1927 or 28, the one that had the weird barrel in it. And the guy, somebody was bidding against me. He went to 100.5, and I went one over 160 or 170, and I won it. Okay. And I didn't even realize what it was. And they figured it's just, they couldn't tell the difference. They didn't know. And another incident where I scored is the one guy had that warehouse thing and he had the estate. He had a ton of rifles in there. Okay. And I was looking and there were 2 Spanish 1893s or something. And I was looking at one. And I was the only person that would go and look at the bores. They're going, oh, you're looking at the bores and inspecting them and writing stuff down? I said, yeah, you got like 30 guns here. I make a list of what, is what I want, And the plain one, you could see it had rust in the barrel. I mean, just looking at it. So I looked at the second one. Looked good. The wood was kind of dark in that, but it's 93. So I put it aside. I said, I'll bid on that one. So bidding comes. Boom, boom, boom. Somebody put in a sealed bid for 2. I went like 220. I win the gun. And I go pick it up. I bought 2 or 3 other rifles in there. But that one I just picked up just to say, because I wanted to load some 7mm ammo and try it out. Come to find out, it was the rare Chilean naval issue with the fouled anchor on the receiver. The gun easily can go for $650 in the condition it's in. Alright, so in a situation like this is where I've made out. Yes, I had to drive like 45 minutes, maybe an hour, to the auction place. Some of them were at night, some of them were during the day. Okay, fortunately, I only work from Monday till Tuesday, so if it was on a Friday afternoon, I didn't have to miss work to go to the auctions. So it all kind of worked out. And I stopped going to them just because I didn't have the time, and I was involved in other things. But the other fella did the estate auctions. He did the big gun series. He went in there, and this guy had a lifelong collection, all kinds of crazy stuff. He had old Stevens single crack shots, and he had some U.S. military pistols the old man must have bought years and years ago. Okay, 1911s. And he had some even earlier Colts. Okay, and kind of surprisingly, they didn't go for as much as I thought they would. But the 1911s, GI issue World War II, that little tiny auction house was packed with people, and I mean, they ran them things up $2,000. Okay, I mean, it was out of control. I mean, and there were 4 or 5 people in there, and this one guy, he didn't care. Chrome-plated Luger, like the one there, okay, or nickeled. I think they might have nickeled. It was a World War I Luger. They ran that up, you know, higher than a kite. And within those couple auctions, there were 2 or 3 Browning 1922 32 autos, and I always wanted one. And I figured, hey, you know, if I can get one for about a $300 bid, I think. So I went for the one, and it went up high. It was like there was a Bulgarian Makarov in there, and I figured, let me get that for a couple $100, you know. But there were people at that auction that bid that thing up to $350. About back then, about maxed out what they were going for. Okay, so you will find people, if somebody's in there that wants it, knows what it is, they're going to go for it. If you're lucky and you're in there and nobody knows what it is, you can walk out with a deal. Okay, that's the thing about it, but it's a lot of time wasted, pain in the ass. If you're going to whine about it, you better just get used to it. But yeah, you can make out if you do it. But I found a trend that when the nicer items, and he advertised them online, it's just a simple thing. His auction house, very simple, just a listing and a photograph, a couple photographs of it. They came down and the good stuff went. And I mean, they were bidding heavy. And so I went through there, and there were several different handguns and that I wanted, but that place was packed and people were bidding. And so when that little Browning come up, I figured there ain't nobody in here, you know. If I can get it, and it was in nice shape. And of course, World War II Nazi mark. The minute he said Nazi mark, forget it. So the bidding's going, we're getting up to my level there, 300. And I'm looking, and I even know the guy on the other side of the room bidding against me. Okay, he wants to become a gun collector. You know, he's not young, and he has a lot of money. Okay, and Nazi marked. So I'm bidding. And I know he ain't gonna let me win this. So, kind of being a little bit of a dick, I just kept running it up to where I got a well over 400. He paid, you know, about 500 for that gun. So I just did it. But sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. That's the way you got to look at it. But that is, in my advice, that would be a good place to take a chance, is the small local auctions. And just go to some of them if you really. And another thing, even if you don't see something you're interested in, go anyway, because these people add stuff, okay, that is not in, like they put the ad out a month before or something. Well, some people will come and add things in there to the auction that are not listed in the original list. And you might find some things. Now, this is rolling the dice where it'll more come out in your favor for a little bit of time and effort. And if you don't find nothing you like, well, you know, you went for a little drive, talked to some people, had some fun, come home. But yeah, the small local auctions may be the place to go. You know, just look around. Go to a couple of them, see, you know, like I said, Auction Zip has that directory. You give them your zip code and they'll show you all the different little auctions around there and that. And just get a feel for it. Maybe you'll find a company you can make out. You know, you never know. Alright guys, hit the like button, subscribe, and stay tuned.